I just want a proper fight. Every single fight so far is an Intuit attack set. That's the thing, man. Most of these fights are just like one and done. Like the longest fight in part 2 so far, I think, is Boruto versus Code, which is like half a chapter. It's not that long. Kawaki versus Boruto is probably the shortest. It's like 2 pages. Boruto versus Mitsuki is very short too. What else have we had for fights? I guess technically this Jura versus Team 10 fight's the longest, but it's also like almost not a fight. It's just like them running away from him for half of it, and he's just one shot puts her in a tree, then they save her, then they talk, then they run away, then he does it again. It's I wouldn't really call it much of a fight almost. Sarada versus Hidari is incomplete. What we got was like 2 pages, but it's incomplete.
Just that one comment really quick of the fights lasting 2 pages at max or whatever it was. 2 moves, I think it was. The thing is, I hate to say this, don't expect a big fight until at least 2025. I'm confident in saying we're not going to get a big fight the rest of this year. Because these next 5 chapters, there's no room to have a long fight. So we're not going to get everyone versus Boro, Team 7 versus Boro. We're not going to get a Team 7 versus Ao. We're not going to get a Sasuke versus Deidara. We're not going to get a Sasuke versus Danzo. We're definitely not going to get a Naruto versus Pain length fight, okay? It's just not going to happen. It's going to be like a chapter at the max, I think, for most of these fights. And that's like in totality. So like, because there's multiple fights going on at the same time, if a fight technically lasts 2 or 3 chapters. Well, if it's only like a third of the chapter is actually on that fight, I'm not counting that. So I don't there's enough.
I was trying to think of a comparison.
Yeah,
I was trying to think of a comparison arc, and I don't know if the Tenchi Bridge is kind of the best one, because that's like the reunion arc, and then that has a bunch of short fights, I guess. But like even Naruto versus Orochimaru might be longer than any of these. Probably is. I don't know how it is in the manga, but I feel like it's longer.
That's fair enough. It's also like different because that's again the introduction to Four Tails Naruto, which was kind of needed because that's like the introduction to what was set up over the time skip. And it's freaking Orochimaru.
Which I guess would be the Borushiki situation.
Yeah.
So then I guess in this case that's the Borushiki parallel if they do it anyway. But
like
it's also in a different point in the arc too, so it's a little bit different.
You look at the beginning of Shippuden, and this isn't a fair comparison. This is the one time I'll agree this isn't a fair comparison. The length of those fights at the beginning of Shippuden compared to now are absurd, ridiculously long in comparison. Even outside of Sakura versus Sasori, I think to this day the longest fight in the entire series, the entire franchise, Sasori versus Sakura. Outside of that, you still have.
It depends on because Orochimaru versus Hiruzen in a way kind of might be up there.
I'm not gonna count the 10 episodes of the Tug of War. I'm not counting that. Basically recapped before Boruto made it.
But otherwise, yeah, the Sasori's fight is like one of the longest ones. Yeah. It has so many stages to it.
Exactly.
It's like first it's Hiruko, then it's the third Kazekage, then it's the human Sasori, then it's the 100 Pame.
But even outside of that, some of these lesser fights are still pretty long. Like the very first fight in the series, Gaara versus Deidara, that's not short. That's a freaking cool fight too. You even have at the same time Team 7 versus Kakashi, the bell test. That's again not short. Definitely not 2 pages. Yeah. You even have what should have been a short fight with Kakuzu versus Sasori. I'm surprised we even got that fight at all. And that was again another cool, long, good fight.
Kakuzu versus Sasori? What?
Konkuro.
Oh, Konkuro, you mean?
Yeah. One bad.
It's like Kakuzu was like, wait, hold on. What are we trying to talk about?
Puppet Master fight. Like, there you go.
Are we doing heat on Kakuzu?
Even like Team 7 versus the Itachi clone or Team Guy versus Kisame, those are shorter.
Team Guy versus Team Guy is longer.
It is.
That's the one time it's not a good thing.
I think that's the shortest fight.
But yeah, no, Team Guy versus Kisame is more of a fight. Like,
yeah. And so again, I'm not gonna say that's like a comparison to make of like saying just Boruto's bad because it has short fights in comparison to Shippuden. But in general, Boruto fights could be longer. And again, I'm not gonna count standing around in a fight. So Boruto versus Code was not like 2 or 3 chapters long. It was like a chapter max.
One chapter. No, it's not. No, it's half a chapter.
Half a chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Boruto starts to walk up the code in chapter 2. I'm not gonna count the one scene of him walking in slow motion. Then the fight is over in half a chapter. He's just talking to Code at the end, and then he follows him to the other dimensions. Like literally half a chapter.
Like Naruto versus Sasuke doesn't start at the Kimimaro battlefield. It starts after they talk on top of the Hokage Stone Monument. Not the freaking Hokage. On top of the Hashirama Madara Stone Monuments, I guess, if you want to count them as stone monuments. Are they stone monuments even? Or statues?
I think so.
What counts as a monument?
Stone statue. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to count it.
I think it counts, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah. But again, I just don't think within this arc they have time to do an actual like long dedicated fight like Sasuke versus Deidara. We're not going to get that.
I don't know. Like the problem though is like if we look at all of the part one Boruto arcs, I guess the battle, the Chunin exams arena Momoshiki fight isn't really much of a fight, but Fuse Momoshiki, or I guess the other dimension Momoshiki fights, that's long.
Yeah.
Even freaking Boruto versus Shojoji is like a couple chapters.
7 versus Al, like I said.
Then
Kashin Koji's short,
I guess,
but that wasn't really a fight in the first place.
Kawaki versus Garo, Kashin Koji, yeah, again, like that's just like Koji stomping them. It's like
it's more like
hard pressed to call it a fight.
Yeah, if anything, like that was hype to introduce Kawaki in like the coolest way possible, rather than it being the point of it being a fight.
Like the fight itself wasn't a story fight. It was just like a Kara / Kawaki introduction type of thing.
Yeah. Let's come back to chat really quick because that's a great segue to something I want to talk about. So the beginning of Sarada versus Hidari is entirely just hype setup. I don't know if you realize this or not. This isn't the fight. This is the prelude to the fight. The fight is about to start.
Yeah, I said the same thing in my live read.
Okay, perfect.
Like this isn't the fight. It's just like an introduction. Like they have not. Like you're gonna get a knowing how they're doing things. It might not even be a full chapter, but you'll get a chapter at least focusing on their fight.